Welcome back to Active Minds Podcast. I'm Catriel C. Sarfati. I'm joined today by my special guest star, Danny, who's going to be co-hosting with me today. And we also have, I'm going to call you J Monopoly.
Yeah. Thank you.
So today's topic and theme is going to be slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Our goal here at Active Minds Podcast is to explore and learn through the experience of those that are paving their own lanes. Then we have a little fun. We brainstorm a little bit. And we kind of dig a little bit deeper into what it means to you. And last but not least, the ultimate goal here is to move smarter together. Jay, welcome, man. I gotta say, obviously a lot of pride. Fellow New Yorker.
Hell yeah.
You built Amazon stores. You did real estate. You're now flipping government contracts. You're actually a certified government consultant now.
Yes, sir.
You got a lot of things going on, man.
I got a trucking company in Atlanta, too.
My bad. Dude, you know what's funny? The first thing when you were going like this stuff you're working on,
Yeah.
that Latino hustle had me cracking up. Because like growing up, we'd always joke, "Go what can Brown do for you?" You got like 5 jobs on any given day of the week.
Facts. Nah, that's a fact, bro.
So,
I'm happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, dude,
Both
absolutely. It's a pleasure. Danny obviously was excited when we started going over the things that we're going to cover with you, but specifically how you got to this stage of life.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Well, you're really such an inspiration. I mean, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
That you're a veteran, and
I never know how to respond to that, just by the way.
It's always weird,
Yeah,
right?
right? No, yeah,
Say thank you.
I'll say thank you.
I was always brought up to say that to soldiers.
It's a weird topic, that's all. It's a weird topic.
So, since your story is so inspiring, I kind of wanted to know, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to know, how you transitioned from being a veteran into where you are today.
Man, this is actually my favorite story to tell, right? So
Really?
I'm glad
Okay,
you asked,
awesome.
right? There's so many, I was telling you guys, right? There's so many different like stories that led to this point, but this is the main one. Like this is really, really the main one. I know you guys believe in coincidence.
Absolutely.
Like you believe, like I believe that whenever something like that, like when those coincidences happen, it's like something's meant for you. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So it's crazy. So I was in the military, right? And I'm on deployment. So I was on a ship at the time, right? So the way the ship works, Danny, is like this. You're on the boat for about a month, maybe a month and a half. No contact with the outside world, right? No cell phone service, nothing,
A lot of
right?
thinking.
A lot of thinking, a lot of working out. Yeah, like some jail shit. You know, I was in the best shape of my life, right?
We both
What
said
talents did you
chow,
pick
working
up?
out.
So I'm over here. I wasn't prepared for that, right? I didn't think I was gonna be on the boat. I actually thought I was only gonna go to Japan, but then they put me on a boat as well. So I wasn't prepared. I didn't know how it was gonna be. So I didn't have any music saved. All right, I was listening to the same Kendrick album, and I don't even like Kendrick, right? No offense to Kendrick or anything if he's listening.
Yikes.
All right, podcast.
Cut it.
But you know, when you got a bunch of guys, right? It's all guys too, by the way. You got a bunch of guys just there, nothing to do. You guys start talking about random stuff, right?
Yeah.
So everybody knows I'm from New York. Everybody knows I'm a big Jay-Z fan, right? I think Jay-Z.
Yeah.
I think Jay-Z's the GOAT, right? It's not.
Hell yeah.
That's a non-negotiable
You've
for me.
inspired
Absolutely.
a whole
I
generation.
A whole generation, bro.
I completely agree.
So I'm here on the boat. Everybody's like, yo, what if Jay-Z drops an album? What if Drake drops an album? Because you're talking about what's happening on the outside world, right? And I'm like, oh, Jay-Z's retired, bro. He's not going to drop an album.
He loves to come out of retirement.
Bro, so I get to Australia.
4 or 5.
I get to Sydney, Australia. This was 2017. I believe it was August 2017. The day that I get to Australia, Jay-Z drops the album 444. The day that I get there, Jay-Z drops the album 444. So, like, I was with a chick at the time. She was one of those real spiritual girls, like the angel numbers and stuff. So
Yeah,
444, I think, I Googled it at the time. I think it was something along the lines like, you're going on the right path or something like that, whatever the case was.
Manifesting.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. I haven't listened to new music in over a month. I've been listening to the same Kendrick songs for a whole. So I don't care what's happening. I'm listening to this album, right? So I'm walking around Australia with my headphones in, and I look up, and Jay-Z's 444 Club is in Australia. I hadn't had no clue.
Oh shit.
Like I randomly bump in to this club in Australia, and the cover art is the same as the one on the album, just the
Wow.
gold 444. So I'm like, what the can
Yeah.
I curse on this?
Imagine no.
So I'm
PG.
like, what the fuck? I'm like, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So I walk in there and I'm like, yo, y'all know Jay-Z dropped an album? Mind you, I'm in Australia,
That's
right?
hilarious.
So I'm like, yo, y'all know Jay-Z dropped the album? And they go, he was actually here last night when it dropped, mate. Bro, mind blown. I'm literally mind blown right now, right? Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I end up partying there all night, get fucking shit faced at Jay-Z's club, right? I have to. Yeah. So, I have fun in Australia for 2 days, and then I end up Googling, right? Because we're all smart, right? If somebody has the results you want, right? You gotta figure out how they got it. So I Google books that Jay-Z read, right? Because I'm about to go back on the boat. I don't want to be bored, so I want to stock up on books, right? So I Google books that Jay-Z read, and there was this one book that Jay-Z said he lives his life by. I don't know if you guys heard of this one, but it's called The Celestine Prophecy. Mm-hmm. You ever heard of that book? So one of the big things in the book is like that when those coincidences happen, is actually the universe pushing you closer towards your life purpose. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, wow, that's crazy, because it's a coincidence that I'm fucking reading this book, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So by this point, I'm back on the ship. I'm back on the boat. And I finished this book. I finished the other book. Now I'm bookless. I only got 2 books. Right? So I asked this guy, some random dude. I'm like, yo, bro, you got a book I can use, bro? Like, I'm bored as hell. And he gave me this real estate book. I read the real estate book. Everything went over my head. I wasn't at that level to understand it yet. But I got one nugget from it, and it was like that most millionaires own real estate. So in my head, I was like, I gotta get started in real estate. That's it. So 2 days after I read the book, we went to Sydney. We were doing a training exercise with the Australian military, and then the next place we went to was Brisbane. So the day I get to Brisbane, I didn't tell anybody that I had landed. Like, I didn't tell anybody that I had service. I didn't tell nobody anything. And my partner, Levi, Snapchats me. So Snapchat was lit, right? This is 2017. Snapchats me. And he calls me right after. First words that come out of his mouth was, yo, bro, we got to get started in real estate. So I was like, oh, shit. Like, bro, I'm all in. I'm like, you don't even got to, like, don't even explain anything further, bro. Like, you don't even understand how crazy this is. Like, whatever we got to do, I'm with it.
The stars have aligned.
And that's how I got started in real estate. That was my transition. Wow. Like, that was my origin story right there.
We can talk all day about time and service, but specifically, there's something that I guess we can say experience has taught me, is that it gives you this unfuckable with core, right? And then when you transition, because I started real estate previously, but now looking at how the markets work, you need that anxiety to, I guess, keep you going, one, but two, how did your time in service translate to you coming into the real estate market? Because there's always ups and downs, people are panicking, et cetera, et cetera. What did you notice helped you once you got into real estate?
I think one of the biggest things I think anybody that was in the military gets is the fact that you can't really say anything to ruin my day. You know what I'm saying? Because in the military,
drink water, drive on.
Yeah. Every day you hear some bullshit. And you kind of get numb to the fact that it's like, oh man, here we go again. Like when you first join, it bothers you. Like you have even anxiety to get bad news the next day. And at one point, you're just like, oh yeah, like I'm expecting the bad news, you know. So that was one of the biggest things, because I was wholesaling at the time, you know. So you're middlemaning a bunch of stuff, and you'd get bad news all the time, and like people would be freaking out, and I'd just be like, all right, so like, what's the solution? Like, what is the way around this? So that's one of the biggest things, bro. It's like you can't. It really takes a lot to get me in a bad mood. So when I'm in a bad mood, people are like, "Oh shit, some wild shit must have happened."
So one thing, you're touching on it now, and I'd like to like kind of pull on the string if it's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're in, right, you kind of go through a lot of experiences where it kind of forces you to be outside of yourself, right? Another example that exorcist would be like, for example, if you take shrooms or meditation or anything like that. Obviously under distress, not eustress. But what are those times that stick out to you? You don't have to get into detail, but there must be a few times while you were in, right, that you were out of yourself, and then you got to that point where you're like, oh, fuck it, bad news. What's going on there in between that? When you're getting bad news, what are you thinking about?
In my head, this is going to sound funny, but when I was in the military, right, and I was getting bad news, it's funny you talk about out of yourself, because I would look at it like that. I would picture that I'm just in a movie. And that's kind of that's what would go through my head. In my head, I'm like, this is going to look good in my highlight reel one day.
Montage.
Yeah. That's how I take myself out of it. And even now, I still do that to this day. Like, if I'm doing something, I'm like, oh man, this is going to make a great story one day. Like, if I'm going through something bad, I'm like, oh, this is going to be great to tell on stage one day. You know, like, it's going to be great for the documentary.
It's a good way to look at it, because it's like when you're giving advice to a friend, right?
Yeah.
And and you're like, oh man, I wish I could take my own advice. So that's great. That's awesome.
I can just see you like giving somebody advice to be like, that's a good idea.
I wish I could take that myself.
I keep pulling on a string because it brings to mind something that I won't go into too deep in it, but there was with near-death experiences that the people, there's kind of like a study done, and after these people were looked at, and one, they were happier, their satisfaction of life was actually higher, and number two, their ability to empathize and problem solve was off the fucking charts. So it's interesting because what they have in common was that exorcist moment of they were not of themselves, but the same thing also happens with people who've tried shrooms, DMT, meditation, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So what they all have in common is they've all had that moment. Remember, ¿cómo se llama la fucking movie? Oh my God, Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
When she,
yeah.
like,
Where he just, yeah.
He's like, it's his body. Like, it seems to be that one connector. Everybody's had that moment, or like seeing themselves in a movie.
Yeah.
Shit, their ability to problem solve is like amazing.
So I kind of get what string you was pulling at now. Now it makes a lot more sense to me, right? When you say that. But it's funny because I've been through both, right? The near death side, and I've done plenty of shrooms. Not gonna lie, yeah. Drop a little bit of acid here and there.
We're gonna link up after this.
Yeah, yeah.
Got something to show you.
Yeah, me too. You got my bag, Sebas? No, I'm kidding. No, but
He's like, I'm not here.
so it's funny that you mentioned that, like, the whole like people have a more like feel happier.
Yeah.
I feel like it's crazy, like being so close to there's nothing like being close to death that like makes you feel alive, in my opinion, right? And there was a situation that happened while I was on the ship, and you know, I ended up losing 3 of my friends to a helicopter crash, you know. And that was right before Brisbane, so it was almost kind of like you realize this, like, so one of the guys it was 3 people, right? It was Captain Cross. He was 35 years old. It was I forgot the second guy, but then we had Velasco. Velasco was 18 years old, bro. Velasco was 18 years old. He was a baby, bro. It was his first year in the military. But Captain Cross he was like, you know, 35, should have retired soon. And you got to do it in the middle. That was like my age at the time, probably like 22 or 23, right? And like I think that shows you almost that like death doesn't discriminate. You know what I'm saying? If you ever go to plan a funeral and stuff, and you're looking through the pamphlets, you know, they got caskets for 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 80-year-olds, right? Death doesn't discriminate, bro. It's random and permanent, you know? And that kind of almost makes you realize, like, what am I talking about? I'm gonna do this shit tomorrow. I'm gonna do this shit right now. Like, there might not be any tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So, I think having been through that experience, it did, you know, it aligned me for when I heard, like, yo, we got to get started on this. That I was like, yeah, 100%,
Right.
no question, let's do it. You know, because like it makes you realize shit.
Because tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Exactly.
Do you feel like mushrooms make you question the relevance of things? Like, is this really that important, right? It kind of takes you out of you know, all the bullshit, you know, and like it brings you back to the source, right? And like what is relevant and what is not.
Yeah, I believe that does happen. It kind of almost gives you a clarity on like what you need to do next. So I have one of those. I think there's like 2 different type of trips that I do.
Okay.
It's like once a year or once every other year, because sometimes I know y'all all had that shroom experience that humbles you ass. Like,
Oh yeah. You really honor it. You're like,
death.
you're
Ooh,
bigger
yeah.
than me.
I'm glad that's literally what I was.
Yeah.
So there's 2 ones, right? There's I have the fun trip where I have a great time. I take everything from I take something from every trip though, and then you have the ego death one. And those ego deaths, you can't have those too often though, because it's like
basic training all over again.
yeah, because it like breaks you down, and it teaches you shit about yourself. It tells you things about yourself you didn't want to hear. It's like, look, this is what you're doing. It's like you have to look at it. You're like no.
The mirror.
Yeah. So it's I have one of the last time I had one of those ego death ones was in Vegas in 2020. So I'm due for one soon.
Weirdest place to have it, dude, out there.
I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
to have one actually. That's the craziest part.
That's the best one.
Yeah. It just kicked my ass.
Do you mind us asking what was the death of ego?
I was going through a lot at the time. I was going through a breakup at the time with a girl that I was with for like a year and some change. And I was moving into being like, I was moving into a different step of entrepreneurship at the time. When I started, it was all ragtag. We were making money, but I was splitting a 5-bedroom house with 5 people. I owned the house though, you know, so it wasn't like I owned the house and I was splitting the rent with 5 people. And then I moved from there to Tampa, and it was my first time being alone per se, right? 'Cause I just went through a breakup too. Because you gotta remember, I went from the military, being around a million people all the time, 24/7, to living into my own house, being around 5-6 people all the time, 24/7, to moving out with my girl at the time, being with someone 24/7, to just boom, nobody, you know. So it was literally the weekend of the breakup that I had went to Vegas. Actually, we went for business, believe it or not. But we ended up having a fucking blast. And this was in 2020 when everything was closed. But Vegas just started opening up. Nobody knew that. It was Labor Day weekend actually, and that shroom trip. Oh my God, it was. I should have known it was something was up, because the dude that gave it to me, he said, "Hey, be careful with these."
Oh Lord.
He said,
"See ya."
He said, and then you got some people tell you that. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I didn't even take a lot. That's the crazy part. I took 3 stems and a cap, and that shit had me for 8 hours straight in Vegas, bro. So it kind of really showed me like, yo, like, you got this, bro. Like, it's okay to be alone. And it kind of, that shroom trip, believe it or not, kind of like taught me to enjoy my own company.
Oh, beautiful.
So even if you're not someone who wants to try shrooms, I mean, if you do, knock yourself out. But if you're not,
microdose.
There is someone that recreated a lot of the, let's call it, benefits of it. Carly Rogers is a researcher, and she did something where she took talk therapy and surfing, and then she put veterans that were suffering from PTSD basically out on the water, and the whole time that they're doing something, they're doing talk therapy at the same time, and the results were within just 3 hours of putting people that were like mute, just almost disabled, depressed, and so on, and they were having conversations, they were laughing, and that basically is something, as we're talking, some of the finer points that I would love for you to take out of this conversation is how it applies to you. And if you're not someone who wants to try that, that's fine too. There is other ways. So talk therapy, and then putting your body in motion. So that could look like something like you going to the gym, going for a long walk. There's something called walking meditations. But I kind of just want to make sure that I'm kind of following along with where you're going, your experience, because as you're doing it, you kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
you're just going along for the ride.
That's how it has to be.
Yeah, you definitely have
if you try to fight it.
I think that the death of ego was within that. And you have to surrender. You know, you cannot, your ego is what tries to control everything and tries to control the outcome. With mushrooms, you cannot control the outcome.
Exactly.
So the first thing that has to die is ego, because if not, you're going to have a terrible day.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it, because it's like I would compare shrooms to being like on the back seat of a car and somebody's driving crazy and there's nothing you can do to stop him. You got to enjoy the ride.
You have to surrender, and in the surrendering and in the trusting is where the beauty comes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely. So I love to get into psychology of things. So we have our self-narrating, very much like you said, you're seeing that movie, right?
Yeah.
And then we have our self-authoring or transformation. And what that looks a lot like is that building your self-confidence. So one thing that I know you can definitely talk about is you're trying things, now you're out in the business world. You have to have that core. You have to have some confidence with you. What does that look like when you're taking care of your confidence?
So I'm glad you said that, man, because there's actually a book I read. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but
I haven't.
He basically talks about the fact that you can't outperform your self-image. So that you can't outperform the way you view yourself. And that's why self-love is the most important type of love. You can't outperform. People are not going to love you more than you love yourself. Facts.
Absolutely.
So there's like a whole study that he did. This dude, so he's not a psychologist or anything. He's the guy who wrote the book. He's a plastic surgeon, and there's some people that once they fix like whatever they thought was wrong with them, their confidence goes through the roof, and they start making more money. They start getting better people in their life, the whole nine. And then there's still a group who, no matter what they do, they still don't see themselves as that person. So the effect doesn't. There's a disconnect still, you know. So like for me, raising my confidence level up has always looked like getting around people who are doing stuff. Because the more I got around people who were performing at a high level, the more I realized this guy's just like me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get around somebody who's killing it, who's making $1 million a month, and you start chilling with them, you realize, like, damn, like, it's like seeing how magic works, you know? Like, oh, this guy's just like me. He just does this and this different. And I have the ability to do those two things as well. Yeah. right? Once you see the magic trick, it's not even a trick no more. It's just like, oh, that's how you did that trick. It's not even fancy no more. So it's like, that's what I recommend to anybody who's having trouble like doubting themselves. It's like, just get in the field, you know, like get around people who are doing things at a high level and realize that person is just like you. He just made a few different decisions, and that's why he's at where he's at.
Do you think that your self-love helps you be able to do that? Because a lot of people who are insecure, or let's say don't believe in themselves, will not put themselves in their room because they're the fear of the rejection or the fear of not being able to know what to say. So what do you recommend to people in situations like that so that they can relate to their group, have something to say and not feel inferior?
So one thing I recommend to people is like you have to go into places like this like with a purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're trying to go meet new people, you got to go with a purpose. And once you go with a purpose, it kind of gives you could give yourself a game plan on what you need to do. So this is the thing. Even the most shy people in the world, right? You bring up a certain topic, like let's say someone could be an introvert, you bring up anime and they're like, hell no, this one's better than that one. It's because they feel like they're knowledgeable enough to speak on that subject. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like it's making yourself, if you're an introvert and you're going to these places, you have to make yourself knowledgeable enough to speak on certain subjects, because if the confidence comes from understanding stuff, right? So it's either doing that or going in with that frame of mind that, yo, I'm a student and I don't know everything, right? So it's one or the other. Okay. Because it's okay to be like, yo, I actually have no clue what you're talking about.
I love people who do that.
Yeah.
I think that you will not learn in life unless you say like, oh, do you know this song? Actually, I don't. And then you learn the song, play it. Yeah. And then that might be your new favorite song, So that's the only way to learn. I respect that so much.
There's always that one person that, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I hate that guy.
And I do that with like,
don't be that guy.
Yeah. And I get like, even when if somebody asks me my opinion on something, right? Like you ask me my opinion on something in France, right? I've never been to France. I'll be like, I don't know. Yeah. Instead of, I heard my friend say, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's okay to just be like, I don't know, bro. I'm not knowledgeable enough to speak on that subject.
Why do you think it's easier for you to say, I don't know?
It just came like what Danny said. You made an amazing point. It's just I realized that this is a fact when it comes to learning. There's a psychological fact. You can't teach somebody something they think they already know. You can't learn something that you think you already know, bro. Like, and me realizing that, if I know that I know about a subject only to a certain amount. So if there's an expert in the room, I act like I don't know anything. Because if he thinks if I'm acting like I already know, he's not going to go in depth. No. So I learned how to say, I don't know, for selfish reasons, really, so that you could go more in depth about stuff.
You heard that? You say, I don't know, you admit you don't know for selfish reasons, porque el que pregunta aprende.
Exactly.
You ask, learn.
Yeah, because
that's what's up. I love that.
Yeah, because if you tell me, you already told me you had a real estate background, right? So like, if we were to get into a real estate topic right now, I would go from the understanding that you know what I'm talking about. But if you had to be like, I don't know anything about real estate, I'd be like, okay, so what wholesaling is, and I would have to explain the whole thing, and then you'd probably learn something in that process. You know what I'm saying? So
speaking of which, I wanted to ask you something. So what is wholesaling? I'm asking from a 6-year-old perspective. Like, how would you explain to a 6-year-old what wholesaling homes is?
So wholesaling is this. Wholesaling homes is this, right? So let's say Sebas has a property, right? He owns a property, and he's down bad, right? He's in distress, right? His dog died, like he's in massive debt, truck broke, the whole nine.
Song.
Literally, the whole nine. He going through the whole nine, bro, right? And his house, let's say the market value for his house is probably like 150 grand, right? I mean, if he put it on the MLS, what it would take, right? But if you're gonna list it, you have to do repairs, you gotta do blah blah blah, right? So I'll go up to Sebas. I'll let Sebas, look, I know your house is worth 150, bro, but I'm not paying you that. What I can do, Sebas, is I could actually, I know you're in a bad situation right now. I could give you 100,000 for this house, but I'll give it to you in 30 days. You'll get 100,000 in 30 days. You don't have to do any repairs. You don't have to do anything at all. Literally, I'll just take it off your hands. And he's like, you know what, bro? Like, I do need the money fast, because if he lists it, it's going to take him a long time. He's going to do the repairs, the whole nine. So I get a contract with Sebas saying that he agrees to sell me his house at 100K, right? Now, let's say you're an investor, right? And you're looking for a house to flip. You see this house, the market value is like $150, right? If you repair it, you probably sell it for $250. I go up to you. I'm like, hey, I got this house for $120,000. And And you're like, oh wow, that's below market value. I can still fix it, make 200,000. So then I get a contract with you saying that you agreed to buy it for 120,000. Okay. So now I got the contract with him. He agrees to sell it at 100. You agree to buy it at 120. I send both those contracts to a title and escrow company or an attorney, depending on what state you're in. And then you get a house at a discounted rate. You get the money that you desperately need it, and I get 20,000 for connecting the two.
Brilliant.
And that's what wholesaling is.
The beautiful part is you don't even need a real estate license.
Yeah, you don't need a real estate license. You don't need any of that.
Really good at lead gen and people.
Yeah, and that's how I started. It's funny actually. My first wholesale deal was actually an accident.
Whoops.
It was an accident. I started off. So I did a few fix and flips before I started wholesaling. So fix and flip is when I'm actually the investor. I'm buying the house, fixing it up, and putting it back on the market. And it was tough. I was still in the military when I started.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. So it was tough. I had to depend on a lot of people, and then I had this house that I was looking to buy. I remember like it was yesterday, 2545 Fitzgerald.
Wow.
It was in Detroit, Michigan, and I had it under contract for 70,000. So I was gonna buy it for 70,000. Last minute, the lender that was gonna lend me the money on it backed out. Literally 3 days before I was supposed to close on the property. So I had an earnest money deposit in, which basically earnest money that means I put a down payment down.
Okay.
And it was a non-refundable one. So if I didn't close on the house, I'd lose the money. But if I did close on the house, they just, take the difference. So I'm like, damn, like I wasn't in no position to lose $5,000 at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hell no, that's not happening. So I sent out that email to all the people that I knew for about $100,000. And then somebody wanted to buy it. So I ended up using transactional funding, which I used a friend of mine to buy the property so he could hold it for a day before I sold it to the other person. And I made like $30,000. And I was like, whoa, that was fucking dope. Because I was only supposed to make $40,000 if I fixed and flipped it. Mm-hmm. And it would have took me 3 months. But instead I made like $30,000.
Just flip some paper.
And I did it in 3 days. So I was like, wait a second. I thought I discovered wholesaling.
Christopher Colombo.
Yo.
Oh, so you thought you found the gap in the market?
I thought
Christopher Columbus, bro. Look at me.
I was like, yo, do other people know about this? So
Christopher Columbus in Detroit.
So I hit up a guy that I was doing business with at the time. It was somebody I considered a mentor at the time. I was like, yo, bro, I think I discovered a loophole, bro. Like, we're about to be rich, bro. Like, that's it.
That's hilarious.
It's a wrap. He goes, yeah, bro, that's called wholesaling. And I was like, oh, shit. Does anybody else know about this? He goes, yeah, a lot of people, bro. Like, this is a business.
Don't tell anyone.
And then that's how I went full in on wholesaling.
That's awesome. That's a funny accident. That's
That's
an awesome
amazing.
accident.
This is amazing.
But that is one of the cool things about the situations like that. The serendipity of it all is kind of like with that phrase that goes along like, what is it, like luck is preparation meets something. I forgot that.
It's preparation and opportunity. What the fuck? I love
Right? I don't remember it.
Preparation plus opportunity equals success.
Okay, there you go. That's obviously what's going to increase your luck. But those serendipitous moments are because you were, one, you already were in there. You were looking to solve a problem in a creative way because you didn't have like a wholesaler's guidebook for this. You're just like, shit, I don't lose $5,000. I got to solve this problem now.
And I feel like that's how we all, like, I think if we all take a look back, even anybody who's watching this, if we take a look back at the times that like, we won the most, it was really after our backs being on the wall or after making a decision where we felt really nervous about it,
Mm-hmm. Sort of like fight or flight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fight or flight. That's a very good way to put it. Absolutely. Whoa. Wait. If you're watching this and enjoying it, press pause for a second. Go to activemindsclub.com. Again, activemindsclub.com.
Here you will have membership access to our exclusive networking events, as well as behind-the-scene access to our guests where you yourself can ask them questions.
Not to mention, at these events and in the community, you're going to have access to the very mentors that are here sitting with us, as well as many, many more that are doing cool things in stocks, marketing, cars, real estate, where we're going to have you have access to education, insights, how-tos, all things that you can apply to your life and business. I mean, I'm a little biased because we've had very similar childhoods and upbringings.
Yeah.
Obviously, military service. But yeah, when your back's up against the wall, it's wow. The decisions you make, it's like a knee-jerk motor memory thing, and that's why I keep stressing the whole like, perfect practice makes perfect. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. When we used to do room clearing, they taught us how to do room clearing.
Yeah.
It was like literally we had to. If you were looking right, I had to look left. If you were looking down, I had to look. It was exactly. It's just motor memory after a while.
What is the art of room clearing?
So like when you're like, you ever seen the movies where they kick down the door and they walk in? Like there's an actual way to do
I
it.
did that the other day. I thought
There's an
someone
art
was
to
in my
it.
apartment.
So there's always there's always the lead, and there's always the rear, and then the guys in between. That number changes depending on the size of your squad. And basically the whole idea is, what is our mission going in there? What is our purpose to go into the room?
Exactly.
The purpose is to get Sebas out. Sebas is, we don't know what condition he's in. So literally anything else is just cannon fodder. i.e., it's just a distraction.
Okay.
If it's, the whole idea is to get to Sebas, get to Sebas, get to Sebas. So again, that's why I keep mentioning the whole motor memory thing of even the way that you approach that deal. It sounds like you literally went into like kind of just like autopilot.
It's human nature though.
Yeah.
Like the biggest like human thing that's never gonna go away is self-preservation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Self-preservation.
I don't wanna
Yeah,
die.
self-preservation is the whole basis of evolution. You know what I'm saying? Like we always gonna preserve ourselves at the end of the day. So that's why putting your back against the wall brings the best out in you. It's evolution.
That probably ties into your military, background that you're able to flourish in a high stress environment. How would you say that your military background ties into your day to day?
So it's funny, when I first got out, right? One of the biggest things that the military helped me with moving forward, like besides the whole, we kind of hit on earlier, not bothering me, was also the fact that I could go hours without sleep.
Yeah, oh shit.
Ooh, I cannot.
I was over here because you said 4 hours earlier. I remember.
Yeah.
You said, like, we're only legally required to give you 4 hours.
Yeah.
sleep.
Sebas knows, like, yo, he could text me at any time, and there's a 99% chance I'm gonna respond. 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. He hit me. No cap.
Time, motherfucker.
I'll probably be up. It's crazy.
Don't do that to me.
but there's a other side to that too, though. There's another side to that too. Discipline is a muscle. And the less you use it, the less disciplined you become. Mm-hmm. So as time went by, it's harder for me now to wake up a little earlier. You know what I'm saying? It's harder for me to do things like that. But I still got that drive to want to do it.
So you say routine. Routine is really important.
I think routine is really important, depending on what you do.
Yeah.
Right. There's sometimes where you got to be a precision instrument, and there's sometimes where you got to be a blunt force trauma instrument.
Okay.
Oh.
There's different levels require different you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like the me that's required right now for what I'm building, I'm not a precision instrument right now. I'm like, yo, we're just going hard as fuck, and we'll figure everything out along the way.
Absolutely. Back to that actually is exactly why I love asking these questions, specifically having these conversations, because very often, the whole idea of confidence and building confidence and making better decisions, right, comes down to one thing: judgment. Mm-hmm. What are you prioritizing? And that also brings us something else to mind is, there's something, I don't know, I'm probably showing my age here. There's this old trick that it's called the Seinfeld calendar trick. And it's basically somebody will put up like on a calendar, and each day they'll mark an X. And the whole idea is to get to 21 days or have no interruptions in it. But the real, I guess, beauty of that exercise is that you just give yourself the chance to have small wins. You have one small win, even if it's like waking up and making your bed or waking up and having breakfast. And then that has a compounding effect. And you just keep circling that every fucking day. Every fucking day you have one little small win. And then every new step, you just add a new little challenge. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah. I've heard of that before. I've never done it, though. I'm not going to lie.
Well, would you feel like that gives you a certain sense of self-worth, which will help and tie
1,000%.
into helping you with your self-confidence when you walk in a room? Because when you know that you've done these things for yourself and that you're doing it every day, you start to get proud, and then that stays into your self-worth, your self-love, and then when you walk into a room, you shine different. You're able to maybe feel better about yourself, so that you're not scared to speak up. Would you say that?
Yeah,
Would you say that?
1,000%.
It's momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think one of the hardest things to gain in business and in life is momentum, where like things are flowing. And like one of the biggest realizations in my life was realizing that we're creators. We don't have to wait on anybody. A lot of people are waiting for something to happen, waiting for momentum in their life. Like, bro, go create that shit. You're waiting for positive energy in your life. Be the positive energy in your life, Like, momentum is something that you can do. And like, even I have an event going, in Orlando this Saturday. And I planned it with 9 days notice. And it was because I was like, I haven't been around people in a while. What am I
need to change this?
Yeah, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Wait for somebody to throw an event? Like, wait for something to happen? Like, fuck, I'm doing an event. in 9 days. Everybody's like, oh shit, you think people are gonna come?
What's the event?
I'm having a few people. I'm doing it in Orlando. I'm gonna have a few people that I know out there just come out and do some Q&A with the crowd, just to be around people, get the energy going,
Nice.
And it's like, I'm back to like the whole what you're saying, that the little wins add up to big wins. It's like, yeah, it's because it's momentum. It's like this one, now you're more confident, and you start realizing like, yo, I don't gotta wait on people. I don't gotta wait on shit. I can just do it. All the rules are made up. Go crazy.
It seems like you're doing that with the. So one thing I mentioned earlier is the government contracts you're doing. It almost seems like you're doing that because when I talk to Kevin, he's almost like hand holding people.
Yeah.
Through this process. So as you and Kevin spearhead that, it almost feels like you're doing that, but you're finding a way to help the other person do that exact same thing, building that momentum. Because I saw like one of the footage is like literally like helping them fill out a form.
Yeah. I mean, the whole government side like is great. I know you guys had Kev on there, but I know Danny. You didn't listen to that one. So like
No.
Kev, just to give you guys a background, Kev's my business partner. He's older. I think Kev's like 42, 43 of them. Yeah. I think he's like 42. He's lying by his age.
He's shaving a few years off. He's 42?
Yeah, he's shaving a few years off.
Okay.
But he so Kev's made his money. He's made over 100 million in the last 15 years doing business with the government. And us being in the military, right, we realized that everything we buy comes from a private company. The government doesn't make anything. They buy it from other people. So it's like the pencils that the military use, a private company supplies that. The paper that they use, a private company supplies that. So he basically positions himself to be the person who supplies things like that.
To the government.
Okay. And you could do anything for the government. Like you could do construction work. You could provide a product or service for the government. Kev's built he built the courthouse here downtown Miami. Like that's his construction company made that. He had the contract for that. I think right now he has like an 8-year contract to do the sewage in Miami.
Oh wow.
It's very lucrative.
That's very
Yeah, it makes a bag
And
off
you're
of that.
teaching people how to navigate that because that's super. What's the word I'm looking for? Intimidating to the average person.
Yes, extremely.
Yeah.
I mean, I just felt intimidated.
Yeah, so what we did is, because the government work is actually not as difficult to accomplish as it sounds, because it's the government. It has to be dumbed down. It has to be so that the lowest common denominator can understand it. You know what I'm saying? It has to be like black and white as fuck,
Yeah.
The hard part is getting registered, getting all that done to get it done, because again, it's the government. Everything has to be very particular, and the average person, it takes them about 18 to 24 months to get a government contract, which is a year and a half, 2 years. What we did, we created a done for you service where we do the whole setup process for people while they learn how to do it as well, so they can learn how to fish after. But we actually shortened the learning curve by more than half. We're able to get people contracts within 9 months.
Wow.
Versus the 18 to 24 months people usually get it. And it's because we have Kev's experience. Not only that, but his father's been doing it for even longer than Kev's been doing it.
Nice.
So like together, only like half a century of experience, on top of the fact that this industry is very small. It's kind of like, in a sense, a little bit like politics. You know what I'm saying? Like where they've both been doing it for so long that they know so many people, and we're able to give our clients that upper hand as well, because they're leveraging our experience and leveraging our connections in order to get their business running. And we just do it mutually beneficial. We really make money because we take a percentage of the contract on the back end.
Okay.
So we're incentivized to make sure that they get the biggest contracts possible, because
What are
that's
some
how
of
we're
the
gonna pay
trades?
it.
I know skill trade is a very common one for government contracts, also supplying and so on. What are some of the businesses that fit the easiest into the government contract model?
Drop shipping is a big one, believe it or not. So like the government needs random stuff all the time, like plastic gloves or hand sanitizer, and they'll put on the contract like, there's one that Kev posted a few months ago, where the federal prison in Orlando, they needed 9,000 half pints of milk a week, and there was a profit margin of 50 cents per bottle. So all you had to do was find the milk at a cheaper rate and just send it to the government. I'm sending it to the president.
Because you supply them with these things, you have this direct line of connection with them?
It depends, because there's different levels of work, right? You got local, city, state, and federal, right? So like a prison contract, right? That's technically a government contract because it's a government-owned agency, but that's not like, you're not getting super high up there. You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
you're not talking.
Pentagon.
You're not talking to Biden or anything like that.
Byron. The New York thing.
Brandon, go,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
go, Brandon.
Huh. And when it comes to the typical person that you notice excels, succeeds with coming into the fold of government contracts, what do they look like?
Man, it's funny because the reason I really liked what Kev was doing and the reason we partnered up is because I'm an entrepreneur, you know, and I've done wholesaling. I've taught wholesaling as well. You know, we do e-com, we teach e-com
You discovered
as well.
it.
I discovered wholesaling, by the way. But it's hard, bro. Business is fucking hard.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, like, not everyone is meant to run a business. That's just being honest.
We
Like,
need everyone.
yeah.
Not everybody
Yeah.
can be an entrepreneur.
Not everyone could be not everyone could be an entrepreneur, but everyone is meant to make extra money. Right?
Sustenance.
But not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's true.
So people have to figure out how they could fit in, and I feel like I could help a lot more people with the government side because it's like having a job, except you own the job.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And like
You
it
have
just,
a very good customer.
and and you have
Yeah.
a very good customer. The government's always gonna pay. If the government stops paying, we all have bigger issues, right? We all got bigger things to worry about. But you know, it's great, and I think the government contracting side, if someone's able to follow directions, the average person could make money. Versus where like, can the average person run a whole wholesale operation and scale it to this? But probably not, honestly.
So how can the average person get involved? How can the average person get involved with a government contract? What kind of average person? What would they have to supply? How could they help?
So full disclaimer, right? I'm not the government contracting expert, right? I don't, you know, I just have to be honest, right? I just had to be honest. I learned through the experiences of others. That's always how I've
Questions.
excelled, right? And so what we do, you know, I set up the groundwork to do the done for you service, right? So I'm not per se the contract expert, but I will say this: you just have to figure out what your strengths and opportunities are, right? So that's one of the things we make our clients do. They do a SWOT analysis,
Yeah.
strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, right? And that's how we kind of figure out what connections you can leverage, what products you can leverage in order to be able to do this kind of work, right? And it usually takes a few times for someone who's not an entrepreneur at all. But if we all know somebody, we're all like, there's like a saying, you ever heard of the 7 degrees of separation? Like,
No.
we're only 7 connections away from anybody.
Yeah.
Like, you're only 7 connections away from Jay-Z right now, you know?
Wow.
Somehow.
Back in the day, it used to be the 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. There used to be a joke for an actor guy named Kevin Bacon. Somehow we were all connected to him. Yeah.
No, but it's true. And honestly, I think with social media, that separation might be even smaller now.
True.
I don't even think it's 7 anymore, bro.
Oh yeah.
That's true.
If I want to meet Jay-Z,
DM.
I can make a post. Yo, who knows
Slide in the
Jay-Z?
DM.
I actually did this. I'm like, yo, who knows Jay-Z? I need to meet him this year.
I'll
which
come
I still,
with you.
I still haven't met him, by the way.
I'm
But,
coming with you.
but check
Jay-Z,
this out.
if you're watching this.
Yeah, please. I had this girl reach out to me, and she goes, "Oh, one of my friends was just at Jay-Z's brunch." And she tagged him, and it was my boy. His Instagram is Invest in Stocks. He's a rapper. He actually just performed at what was the one of the festivals that just happened here?
Rolling Loud.
Rolling Loud.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
He just performed at Rolling Loud, and he actually tailored custom Jay-Z suit.
Oh, nice.
So look, I skipped
getting
a
there.
bunch of
You're almost
degrees
there.
off of Bose, right? And I was like, yo, bro, put me on. He goes, bet. He's like, yo, there's gonna be a Rock Nation thing going on, blah blah blah. I wasn't in the country at the time, but I could have like went to that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like going back to the whole, bringing it back to the whole government and business side of things. You know someone who has connections. You just gotta go dig.
True.
You know, and then that's what the, you know, doing that analysis is for, to figure out what strengths and opportunities you have around you to make something happen.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to analyze somebody and see their strengths. How do you feel about the house market right now? Like, how has it affected your wholesaling?
So actually, I stopped wholesaling in 2021.
Okay.
Can't blame you.
I stopped wholesaling in 2021, and it wasn't because I wasn't making money. 2020 was actually my best year. I made 1.2 million in 2020 wholesaling properties.
Wow.
I had a 5,000 square foot office in Tampa, 20 in-house employees. Like, we were really, you know, feeding families. It was because I don't think it aligned with my long-term vision.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So that goes back to how I got it. Why I like the government contracting so much.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Really?
So this is the thing. Check this out. If I made $1 million this year in my wholesaling company, next year I gotta make $1 million again. You know what I'm saying? And then the following year I gotta make $1 million again, or scale up, add money in order to grow bigger. correct? But it's transactional, right? Versus, let's say I have a trucking company that has a 3-year government contract and I made $1 million this year. I can sell that. I can sell, if I make $1 million this year, I can sell this company for $4 million this year, which is cool, right? Like, not only did I 4x my money, but you got to think about what else I did. I cut off 4 years of my life. I fast forwarded 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you look at a lot of billionaires, and one of the common traits is they sold off multiple companies before they started their big one. And when you put it into perspective of time instead of money, it's like you sold this company off, say 4 years, say 4 years here, 4 years. By the time you sold 4 companies off, bro, you probably saved 20 years of life, bro. You fast forwarded 20 years. You know what I'm saying?
Chess, not checkers.
Exactly.
It's the same concept with chess. You want to have that one move that basically knocks out 3.
You good at chess?
Board. I love chess.
I love chess too, bro.
Chess too.
I'm a nerd. I'll be playing.
He plays online.
I love chess.
Yeah,
I play online too.
Yeah, I'm really.
So you know exactly where I'm coming from.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
Forward thinking.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah. So that like the wholesaling didn't align, right? Because I can make $1 million this year, let's say with my e-com company, and we have the residual doing so good that we sell it off. And
hell yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Versus the
it's
wholesaling.
long game thinking, but now
Exactly. The wholesaling, I got to do it. I got to do it again and again and again and again and again. And that's
Exhausting.
actually why I stopped.
did you shut down or you just sold it off?
I tried. You can't, and that's another thing. You couldn't sell it off.
That's
Because
why,
it's another thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was either gonna have to work on this forever or trust somebody else to run a business. And it's like I was having a problem at the time, and this probably attributes to me. I probably wasn't as strong as leader as I am now at the time, but I had a lot of people in my company who were leaving to start their own businesses, which is like, that's part of the game, right?
It is.
You attract hungry people. They're hungry. They're gonna go do something else. But it's dope because 4 of my guys who were working for me before, they actually all 4 of them separately own 7-figure wholesale companies.
Nice.
Yeah. They all own $1 million companies. So it's pretty dope to see
You
that.
are a
bro.
good leader.
Yeah.
Why this? Why you? What you're doing now? Why this? And most importantly, why you?
So why this? As far as the government contract, man, it ties into a much bigger picture as well, bro. You know, I really I love business. I think it's the best sport there is. I think business is a thinking man's sport, kind of like chess is, right? There's actually a study like someone who's playing an intense game of chess burns calories as if they were working out. That's a fact.
Yep, it is.
That's a fact. So business is the same thing. It's a game of who could bring the most people together. It's a game of who could outthink people. You know. Yeah. So I enjoy it. I look at it as a sport. To be honest, I
see your eyes lighting up.
I really.
Yeah, I did too.
Nah, I really enjoy
it. My man's excited.
No, I keep myself competitive.
I
keep myself competitive, bro. Like, I swear to God, this is gonna sound funny to you. So, like, you know how people say, oh, they look like. I feel like most people go through life going through the motions, and then they get upset when they haven't excelled. It's like you're going through the motions, you know. So I gotta fire myself up every morning, and I do it because I keep myself competitive. Like in my head, I'm like, this is a sport, and I'm playing. Like we can still be brothers after. It's like Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, right? They play against each other on the field.
Good game.
They gon' go crazy.
Yeah.
They not no prisoners, right? But at the end of the day, they go home. They're like, yo. Good game. So I look at myself the same way every morning, bro. I play diss tracks in the morning to get me hype. I swear to God.
Diss track?
Stillmatic?
Like the rap battles?
Yeah. I play Hit 'em Up, Ether every morning to get myself. That's how I get
That's why I
myself.
asked about Stillmatic.
That's how I get myself out of bed. I
played the
swear
new
to God.
Beyonce album.
That's awesome. So as we're wrapping up, some of the finer points, if you're watching, taking notes, listening, or just want to hit rewind. So we originally started the conversation with his foundation being, you know, raised in New York, how that then translated to his time in service, specifically when it came to, let's call it what it is, eating shit. All right, you're gonna eat shit for a long time, but there's a layer cake portion to this. You eat shit for a little bit and then you ascend to the next level because the whole time you've been building your foundational strengths, your skills, your opportunities, your threats. You're always analyzing that. We then moved on to the subject, okay, perfect practice makes perfect. You're now going to take those, coming back to the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You're going to take those skills and you're going to see where they transfer to other arenas. When he talked about how he got started with wholesaling, it wasn't that he set off to be Cristoforo Colombo. It's that he went in there. He's like, I don't want to lose $5,000. So he immediately went into, okay, what are the things that I've done in the past? He immediately went to, I'm good at connecting people. So what did he do? He sent out a mass email. He pitched an offer of value, which led to him making money. We then got into a little bit of the unfuckable with core again when we started talking about, okay, I'm now going into an arena that I know nothing about, government contracts. But he also applied the things that he learned when he did his Amazon stores, when he did his wholesaling deals. The same thing applied there. So if you're noticing the pattern, it's that you're taking small wins, you're doing it again and again, you're compounding the entire time, and you're always adding a little challenge. For him, his challenges included going into new arenas, new sectors, new industries, and so on. And now as we're wrapping up, I'm going to give you the floor. Is there anything in the last 12 months that you are fucking proud of, that you want to celebrate?
Man, it's a lot. Nah, really, realistically.
We got to hurry up because you got the models waiting for you.
Nah, it's all good. I got to figure it out. They're going upstairs. No. One of the things, honestly, is so I do a lot of events.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not a lot. I want to do more, but I've done 2 events: the Better Way Conference 1 and the Better Way Conference 2. And it was kind of just like off the cusp that I thought of the name, the whole thing, and had an event. The first one, we ended up having 500 people in attendance in Orlando.
Nice.
The second one, we ended up having 400 people in attendance in Dallas. But Dallas was an interesting one for me because it was actually a challenge for myself. I'm not from Dallas at all. I feel like I've never done an event in Dallas.
So you know people in Dallas.
I don't know anybody in Dallas.
Ooh,
None of
okay. Now it's getting fun.
None of my speakers were from Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the smart person, right, or the logical person would be like, yo, I'm doing an event in Dallas. Let me use a few Dallas speakers so they could bring their audience. I think I used one Dallas speaker, and he didn't even promote the event. Like, so it didn't even bring his audience.
You done fucked up, kid.
And we ended up having 4 people come out in the middle of a snowstorm. The day before the event happened, I got 100 emails of people that had to cancel because flights were canceled. I almost didn't make it to my own event. Wow. That's how bad it was. So, like, I'm really proud of that because I remember I was on stage and I said, who here caught a flight? And the whole room, I think there was only like probably 50 people from Dallas at that event.
Wow.
In Dallas.
Out of 400.
Out of 400.
Wow.
And I was really proud of that
Not
because
bad
it's
turnout.
like, you know, my goal is to build a community of winners, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I want people to think about 10 years from now when they're on a podcast, they're like, how did you get started? Actually, I went to this event in Dallas and I met this person. And like, I like being like an incubator of people's success, you know? Like, I love getting messages a year later, like, yo, I met this person at your event. We made $1 million together. Or,
wow.
Yo, I learned this at your event and now I'm doing this. And like, I get the most pride out of that. That's why I was kind of going in, like, the whole government contract thing, that fits into a bigger picture of everything, you know? Like, what I really want to do is kind of like, long term is go bigger with these events, collab with great people like you and Danny. You know, you guys could come out, share your stories, share what you guys do, and because Danny could inspire people that I can't. True. Because you got people that relate to you that can never relate to me,
This is true.
and vice versa. You know,
Absolutely.
and like bringing people together like that, bringing different audiences together. That's how we all grow. Because I mean, you get people that meet people that they would never met if it wasn't because of us.
That's how we met Sebas.
Yeah. So that's one thing I'm really proud of, and I'm gonna continue to do these events. I'll probably do a really big one 2023. I'm just loading up for it because it's stressful to do. I'm not gonna lie.
You got a lot of good
Fuck it, I'm
karma
looking
you're
forward
going
to
your
it.
way.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That 2023. It's gonna be a big one, huh?
Yeah. I wanna at least like 2,000 people at this event.
All right, you heard it here. We're gonna have an event 2023, 2,000 people. As we wrap up, yes, the usual thing is to thank you. Let's try something different. Let's challenge you. Okay. So as you're wrapping, listening, or watching this, do your own SWOT analysis. So what is it again? It's your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. What are your strengths? You're going to go through your personality. You're going to go through your Rolodex. You're going to go through your skills. Weaknesses are going to be your personality, your skills, and your Rolodex. Opportunity side is you're going to take everything from the strengths and you're going to match it. All right. If, for example, if you're an introvert, but you're really passionate about a subject, well, maybe you can write about it. Maybe you can, make videos on it, etc. And then on the threat side, you're basically doing the same thing. So before getting all into that, just write that down. Give it an actual try. You're going to always update it, by the way. On average, whenever we've done it, and I know you do SWOT analysis with people as well, there's always going to be that time that you're going to have to refresh it. So tell yourself every 3 months I'll come back to it. I wanted to give a huge thank you to Danny for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You've been awesome.
Thank you.
Obviously, Jay, you've been awesome audience.
Appreciate you,
and
my bro.
guest. And now I'm definitely going to Orlando. He's getting me to go to Orlando, which is a feat in and of itself. And as we close off, again, Thank yourself. Be kind to yourself. It's
Ask
not as hard as you
questions.
think. Exactly. Ask more questions of yourself.
Yeah.
There's a huge ROI on asking better questions. Yeah? So I want to give a huge thank you as well to Vegan Gummies and Hands Free Automation for not only being sponsors, but partners in keeping this machine running. I've been Catriel C. Sarfati. This has been Active Minds, where our goal is to explore through the perspectives, the lenses of people who are paving their own routes. Then we have a little fun. We brainstorm a little bit on how it applies to you. And last but not least, moving smarter together. This is chess, not checkers. See you next time.
So guys, as we're wrapping up, we want to remind you that we have our membership program now available on activemindsclub.com.
ActiveMindsClub.com. Grab yourself a seat. See you there.